Et finius status est nobis.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jack Bridges, owner of GPI Pro Systems. What I'd like to talk to you about during this segment, and you're going to have to forgive me, I have a lot of things written down on this here piece of paper, and I didn't want to skip any steps and trying to talk about things candidly with you. If I don't follow this, I'm going to miss some. So I'm going to be looking down at this piece of paper from time to time, and you'll have to excuse the glasses. What I want to talk to you about is something that pops up every once in a while. Actually probably about 10-15 times a year. Some people get a little bent out of shape about it, and I can't help that, but what I can do is I can explain why we say no. It is about custom work. We entertain probably 10 to 20, it might even go as high as 50 phone calls, emails, or inquiries annually on, I need you to make me this little bracket. I need you to make me this little thing. I'm sure some of you that are watching this have done this, and I want to explain why we don't. First of all, when you call me up and you say, Jack, I got this great idea for this little bracket or this little widget, or I bought this thing over here, but I didn't think about how I was going to mount it on my sled or my vest, anything like that, right? I'm sorry that you went out and bought that, but here are the steps I'm going to describe to you in how Pro manufactures equipment. The first thing is we come up with an idea. Say it's your idea or say it's my idea. These steps apply at Pro. The concept drawings. If you came in and said, I got this idea for this bracket and widget, I have to stop and draw the concept that you're feeding me so that I can understand it. And that can take hours, folks. One, to pull the information to figure out what's this thing gonna doohickey gonna amount to, da-da-da-da. This is the concept drawings. Then after that step, and that takes time, that's my time, it's valuable time that I can be doing other things with, right? The next step is 3D modeling. So I have to take the concept drawing, then we have to build a 3D model in a program called SolidWorks. It's a very powerful tool, but you have to have very good skills with SolidWorks to be able to bring this dream into a three-dimensional reality. And what we do with that modeling, that can take days sometimes, if not weeks. The 3D modeling represents the real item in three-dimensional space. So we can measure it, we can look at it, we can change surface finishes, we can do all kinds of things with it. Set up tolerances for machining. Once the 3D modeling is done, then that data has to be downloaded into a program called Mastercam X, which is what we use. That is the programming language that our CNC machines can understand. It's the Cartesian coordinates, the X and Y and Z commands that the machine obeys to produce said part. Now, a little bracket or widget may take some elaborate fixturing. It may just be held in a Kurt vise or something like that. But you never know until you get to that point. And now we've spent tons of time on this one little thing, right? After the data is pulled out of SolidWorks and then put into Mastercam, they kind of work, they cohabitate with each other actually. Then that data is sent to the machine shop, which we own our own manufacturing division. The fixtures have to be made to hold the part, because you can't just grab a piece of metal, throw it in the machine and hope this thing pops out. You have to hold the part in all of its states of creation. Those fixtures are a creation in amongst themselves. So there are other parts right there which we have to program. We have to design it, cut them, just to be able to move on to step 2 or step 3 or step 4 of producing this part. Then after that's done, There's the machine setup time. The program has to get tweaked. The tools have to get loaded. Do you have to buy special tools, this and that, just so you can turn the machine on and make a part. That could take, hours if there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 setups for that individual part, because it has sides unless you've placed it on an index or a rotary head, which, by the way, a rotary head can run you anywhere between $30,000 and $100,000 so you can make the part go like this, right? Once the machine cuts the parts, then that machine or that part has to be cleaned and deburred and checked for scratches. Does it fit its other components if it's an assembly, right? Because most of the time it's an assembly, not just one little part. After that's done, it goes into a machine called a tumbler, which we have, a very nice tumbler. It rolls that thing around and it breaks all the edges and it gets the surface finish that we at Pro like. After it's pulled out of the tumbler, we send it off for what's called Type 3 hard anodizing. Type 3 hard anodizing is an impregnation of the host material. Then at the same time, it does a buildup on the host material's surface. It could be a half a thou. Sometimes a really heavy buildup would be a thousandth of an inch. Now, that Type 3 hard anodizing is not paint. It is a controlled corrosion process that won't scratch unless you really gouge it with something. But for normal wear and tear, it holds up way better than paint or powder coating or anything like that. And we can hold tolerances with Type 3 hard anodizing. When the anodizing is done, if it's an assembly or you have to have connectors or something on it, it has to be laser engraved. We don't just sit there and write or paint little information on there. We send it out and have it engraved. Well, I don't have an engraver in house. I have to send it outside, so there's a batch charge for that. If it's one piece, they really skyrocket that. If there's 20 or it's a normal product they do, I get it a lot cheaper. But for one-offs and prototypes, man, is it expensive. And then you're handed the part. Now let's talk about the time and the money's involved with each one of these steps. And it's exactly 10 steps. Obviously, the 10th step is delivery. It doesn't cost any money, but that's where monies would be exchanged. And you as an operator wanting one little part won't like this part. And this is not numbers I made up. These are the things that we charge, and these are the things that outside vendors charge us. For concepts drawings, this is my time or Chad's time. We stop what we're doing, sit down with a piece of paper to try and draw out your idea of the little part you would want. Let's say it's an absolute minimum of 1 hour of our think tank time. A typical hour at Pro, it's $150 an hour. Now, why is it $150 an hour? I don't know what you make, but that's what I make. And the reason I make that is the years that I spent honing this craft and my skills, and that is what they are worth. Doctors and lawyers get paid a heck of a lot more money, and they go to school for a long time, and they'll charge you whatever they want. We charge $150 an hour, and I might take that to $175 based on economic growth and things like that. 3D modeling, that's a lot more involved than doing a concept sketch. But just say that the 3D modeling only took 2 hours. You're at $300 just for that. So now we're at $450. Mastercam, the importing from all that data, checking the tool paths, it's very involved. Say minimum 2 hours. We're at another $300. So now we're at $750, and we don't even have anything to show for it. Fixturing. When you want to build, say I wanted to make this camera plate. Now I don't need any involved fixturing for this. I simply hold the stock in a Kurt vise and I do the first op here, cut the dovetail, all that good stuff, bring it over, face it, cut these pockets. That's 2 setups, gentlemen. This is a simple little camera plate. There's nothing to it. When you're talking about something, say, whatever, a part that has 3 sides or 4 sides or anything that get worked on, each one of those has to have fixtures to hold that part. Well, each one of those fixtures itself is a part because you have to create that to be able to hold the part. So it's not just throw it in the machine and it gets done. Fixturing can take up to a day, sometimes two, depending on how many times you have to turn or hold the part. We're talking days here. Cleaning the part, about a half an hour, depending on how involved the part was. We're just deburring it and checking it for major scratches, but it's a half an hour. Tumbling, it's going in the tumbler minimum for 1 hour. It doesn't matter if how much the tumbler costs me or how much the medium. It's time, folks, and I can't have any other parts in there except for that one little piece. So you're going to get charged for an hour. Anodizing is a batch charge. We don't do that in-house. We send it off to an anodizer, and their batch charge starts at $150. If you want it rushed, there's a rush fee of $150, and that would it'll get you the part in about 3 to 5 days. That's a rush. And it doesn't matter whether I give them 1 part or 20 parts. It's a $150 batch charge, and that doesn't count masking of the part if there are places that a bearing goes in or anything funky like that. And then we have engraving. Engraving's all over the map. It depends on how complicated it is, how small it is, how much of it there is, and usually it's a by letter deal. And then there's delivery. So your little part, the little bracket or widget that you just thought was very, very simple and easy for us to produce, is actually a lot more involved than you really thought. And to be quite honest with you folks, because we are our own customer in our own machine shop, I don't have time. I can't take time to tear down my machines that are making large runs of parts to deal with this one little thing. Now, your options are, since we can't do it, or we won't do it because I don't have time, are to find an independent machine shop and possibly an independent programmer, because I'll give you an example. One of our vendors cannot program parts. He doesn't have the knowledge, nor does he have the software, because most times you have to go to school for those things, unless you OJT. He has to farm out that programming, and he simply is going to charge you what the programmer charged him, and then there's his setup time and everything. So it's going to cost you big time. If you think about that little bracket widget is always a one-off prototype, you'll know that the word prototype is a scary thing. It's expensive. It always has been, and it always will be, because of the serious time and energy and resources that are involved. So I hope that helps you understand why we say no. It's not personal, and we're just busy, folks. We're not sitting around, waiting on stuff. So there's case in point. I gotta go.